Doorways to the Mystery of Being, my ROR exploratory practice. From my perspective, it takes just three things to peek into what I think is wondrous beyond that which we can comprehend. Maybe four. The first is a discard or a shelving, an almost reckless release of every belief and system of belief about where one came from, about where any of this came from. The cosmologies, the origin stories, the sacred texts, and the scientific models, all of them beautiful, all of them useful in their own domains. But that's not for this exploration. It is something closer to what mystics point toward. The apophatic gesture, the via negativa, the willingness to unknow. Meister Eckhart calls it the Abgeschiedenheit, which is detachment. But unknow what? Unknow our prior conceptions. The second is an opening of the inner aperture. Let me explain. A photographer knows that the aperture governs what enters the frame. Narrow it and you get surgical focus. One sharp object and the rest dissolved into blur. Open it all the way and light floods in from everywhere. The background becomes visible. The scene takes on a life of its own. You see, most of us walk through life with the aperture set very tight. This person, this problem, this task, this afternoon. The mind is a relentless editor, cropping and curating, deciding what counts as foreground and what gets dismissed as background noise. But if we tried, just for a moment, to open it, pull everything that is appearing into this very moment, not sequentially, not categorically, but all at once. The hum of the refrigerator and the ache in your lower back and the quality of the afternoon light and the thoughts that just floated through about something you forgot to do. All of it simultaneously, without ranking them. The sound of a dog somewhere down the street, the slight pressure of clothing against skin, the strange fact that there is something rather than nothing. When the aperture opens this wide, it becomes peculiar. What is kind of happening? The usual hierarchies of experience, the important things at the front, the irrelevant things swept to the margins begin to dissolve. I tell you, there's a kind of astonishment with the dissolution of both. It is an embarrassing astonishment to notice that anything exists at all. That perception is happening, that the world is showing up moment after moment with extraordinary fidelity, and you are here to receive it. But then you are here to receive it doesn't mean they exist and then you were plopped into it as an object observing the world, observing me, observing other people. It's a very, very subtle recognition that you are not separate from it all. The sun and you are made of the same substance. Substance and you of the same. You and that the same you. You get the point? That brings me to the third point. This one is probably the most difficult. It is the dimming of the light on what we think we are. Not the extinguishing, not the denial, just the dimming, the way you'd lower the light in a room, not to sit in darkness, but so that you can see what was always faintly glowing on the walls. In practice, this looks like allowing the doors of the senses to be wide open without interpretation. Eyes see without naming. The ears hear without labeling. The tongue tastes without comparing. The skin feels without evaluating. The senses in their raw immediacy just witnessing. Before the mind arrives with its clipboard, before the little announcer inside begins narrating the events from an imagined audience. What is left when we subtract the human, the named person, the mind, the body from the equation? Not nothing, something oddly more, something prior to the categories. It is not a someone, it is not an experience you can put in your pocket and take home. It is more like the space the room was always sitting in, finally noticed, because the furniture has been quietly moved aside. The Zen tradition speaks of motion, which translates to no mind, not as an absence, but as ground. The Advaita teachers point to awareness itself as the one thing that cannot be an object of awareness, because it is the awareness doing the looking. Jen Klein used to say that you can't find yourself because you're what is looking. This is not a riddle. The finger is not the moon. Well, sometimes on a clear night, following the finger is enough. The fourth is a conscious remembrance, the gentle, repeated return to this posture or orientation. Because we forget, of course we forget, the mind reconstitutes its machinery with remarkable speed. The names flood back, the story picks up where it left off, the body reasserts its coordinates. The calendar fills in again with all its urgent columns. For me, sitting in meditation, using a contemplative technology, writing like I'm doing right now, gives me the opportunity to remember. But I've learned too that remembrance is not failure interrupted by success. It is the very practice. The mystics did not achieve a permanent state of luminous unknowing and then retire from the work. They turned and turned again and turned again. Each turning is complete in itself. What then becomes immediately obvious in those moments of turning is that we don't actually know anything about anything. Nothing the way we thought we did. We know frameworks, we have patterns, we have extraordinarily sophisticated preconceptions about what we think we know, built up through the decades of careful attention and painful experience. And these are not nothing. They have kept us fed and housed and navigating relationships with some minimal competence. But they are not knowledge of the thing itself. They are, at best, reliable approximations. The tree outside the window, you have a concept called tree that has served you very well. But the actual presence of the actual tree in this actual light, at this actual hour, with the particular angle of branch and that specific quality of green, that is happening for the first time. It has never happened before. It will never happen again. The concept tree cannot hold it. The concept is a bucket with no bottom and nothing wrong with the bucket. Just don't expect it to hold water. What then becomes obvious past the discard, past the opened aperture, past the dimming, past the remembering, is the sheer miracle of being alive. And here's where it gets interesting. This aliveness does not do with what you might expect it to do. It does not float above the mess. It does not transcend the stories and framings of experience. It does not evacuate the confusion or the grief or the mundane irritations of this damn Friday morning. It does not hand an exit pass from the human condition. I used to think it would. Instead, it sees more clearly. The stories appear in sharper relief. The framings are visible as framings, which is to say, you can see both the painting and the frame at once, rather than being lost inside the painting, convinced it is a window. This aliveness does not give meaning to experience. It does not rush in with its explanations and consolations. It just sees experience for what it is, which turns out to be, underneath every label and every interpretation, a bloody mystery. An inexplicable arising of sensation and perception, and knowing appearing in the midst of a universe that did not have to exist, being noticed by a consciousness that cannot fully account for itself on a spinning rock hurtling through an expanding space that has no edge. There's some freedom there. There's some joy there. There's some wonder in that. It's not the wonder of finding an answer, but the wonder of discovering that the question goes all the way down, and at the bottom of the question, something is still here, aware, awake, quietly radiant. Leonard Cohen wrote that there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. But perhaps the crack is not the wound. Perhaps the crack is the truth, and the wound was the pretending that nothing was cracked, that we had it all figured out, that the aperture was set exactly right. Open the aperture. Dim the story. Stand at the edge of what you think you know. What you find there cannot be named, but you recognize it immediately. You always have. With that, I share with you a contemplative practice I will call the 3 movements. ROR. The 3 movements. Find a comfortable seat. There's no wrong way to do this. If you stand, that's also fine. Or make sure you can pay close attention to this prompt. So the first movement is the release. Let go, just for now, of needing to know where you came from or where any of this is going. You don't have to resolve it. Simply notice the relief, however small, of settling down. You can do this part for 5 minutes. You can pause right here, and after a few minutes, you return to it. So just release what you can of any need to know or experience anything. I know it's a contradiction, but you can just do it. Second movement, open. Let your senses receive without filtering. Don't reach for anything. Don't push for anything away. Let sound be sound. Let sensation be sensation. Let the field of awareness widen, as if the walls of the room you're sitting in became transparent and you could sense the whole neighborhood, the whole sky, without leaving your chair. Third movement, rest. Ask yourself quietly, what is the one thing that is aware of all of this? Don't chase the answer. Just sit with the question. Even if you don't understand the question, just sit with it. I would say ruminate on this question. Chew it in your mind's mouth over and over and over and over again. If the mind produces candidates, me, myself, consciousness, then it's the perfect opportunity to notice that something is aware of those candidates too. Keep resting. Keep returning. Sit here for as long as you want. And when you stand up and return to the day, you carry something with you, a faint scent. The scent of the mystery of who we are.